Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. I'm Edward Hunt, joined by my fellow imaginary friend,
Mike Cunningham.
and we are the Meddling Kids, and we like to review movies. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Good to have you here. For those of you who've come back, hey, good to see you again. Today we'll be reviewing If, which I might stand for imaginary friend, it might stand for what if. Who really knows what this thing means? But either way, if you haven't seen this movie yet, don't fret. We won't spoil anything for, let's call it, the first 5 to 10 minutes. We'll give you a spoiler-free review from 0 to 5, some background, and then get into our play-by-play. So, Mike, If, what'd you think?
2.5. If I'm being honest, it wasn't something I was excited to see. I like Ryan Reynolds, but it does feel like he has a shtick, sorry.
He might have a
And
stick too. You don't know that. I mean, he could have a big stick. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of actors or directors or whatever it is, they have their thing, they lean into it, and to me, it can either get old or you expect that from them, right?
hmm
And so Ryan Reynolds is going to Ryan Reynolds. At this point, he's going to Deadpool. So it's just like I have been really excited to see a lot of stuff from him. I
hmm
like him, as an actor, but it was just like I haven't really been excited to see anything. And also, this is focused like on the family, the kids, side of the genre. So like, I also wasn't excited at all with that. But I think this was a cute film. I think
hmm
I think I appreciated the performances from Callie. What's her name? Callie Fleming. Excuse me. Um, I usually, I'm usually on the spectrum when it comes to kid actors, but I think she did really well in this. Also, I like Fiona Shaw. I can't remember where I know her from. The woman that played the grandmother.
hmm I mean,
It
she's
was,
a pretty prolific Irish actress, I think.
yeah, it was like that's what I'm saying. I couldn't remember where I knew her from, but it was just like I
Mhm.
kind of appreciated their chemistry. I like their performances. That I appreciated that. That was really good. And I thought this. I mean, it hit it did the Pixar thing, right? One, it knocked out any parental figure that needed to be there, but that's just Pixar.
For sure, for sure. Yeah.
But two, it had those very sweet moments, those heartfelt moments that I really appreciated. So like I like that from this film, but for the most part, the story was, I guess, bland. It really didn't dig into this world like I thought it would. A
hmm
lot of the imaginary creatures were cool, but it was like they didn't really dig into the imaginary, I guess, which
Yeah.
is interesting for this film. Um, there wasn't a lot of world building to me, at least, right? I think it was.
Well,
I guess it
yeah.
was cool what they did. And I think also the I guess fourth or fifth grade. I can't remember. I haven't been counting. I'm drunk. But but another big gripe for me was the fact that this seemed a lot very derivative. So it was just like somebody said something about this being like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I don't know if you ever watched that as a kid.
I loved that show. It was a great show.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was just like, yeah, it seemed like something. It's this a lot of this movie seemed like something else that had been done
hmm
better.
Yeah.
But like I said, so it was just like, but I think my rating 2.5. It was like I did. There were moments I did have fun. Like I said, I really enjoyed the performance from the young character Callie, just because of the fact that it, depending on who you get when it comes to your young actor, um, it can either make or break a film.
hmm
So like I said, I do want to praise that performance, but for the most part, like this movie wasn't something I wanted to see, and um, I wasn't surprised at my reaction to it, but it did hit the all the beats that I guess it needed to as a family film, as a film geared towards either the family or children. Even though it was very interesting, that was like the showing that I saw only had four people in there, and it was a family
Yeah.
of three sitting behind me, and
and you,
and like the child that was a part of that family kept leaving, like was in and
Mhm.
out, like where the mom had to take her in and out. And I was just like, "This is for you." I think that's usually my gauge of a good film geared toward children. I think the same thing happened when I saw Elemental, where it's just like if you
Mhm.
can't keep the attention of your core audience, that says something a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Now, granted, I don't know. I mean, kids are kids. Like my nephew was the same way with fucking Spider Man. Like, but it was just like it was very interesting to me that like this film couldn't keep the attention of its core audience. Where it was just like I guess both the mom and the dad had to take the kid out multiple times during the movie. It was just like
Hmm.
this is for y'all. I'm sitting here by myself taking notes. How the fuck aren't y'all engaged in this? It was like that also said a lot about the film. But like I said, I think it hit certain core beats for like heartfelt moments in the kids movie, and I did like the performance, but I did have a lot of gripes with it. I
Yeah.
guess that's what I expected coming in, seeing the trailer.
Hmm.
Um, but no, it was cute. It was heartfelt. I did enjoy certain moments. So 2.5. Like it wasn't terrible. You know, I won't say that. It's surprised. Like I said, I think it's interesting. This fucking the budget was over 100 million, and I don't see where. If I'm being honest
Uh,
with you, like
well, you have to remember, Ryan Reynolds bought a soccer team a few years back, and that thing is just losing money. All right, so man does not work for
okay,
cheap.
so this is like a lot of the imaginary, like they just had, I guess for the most part, a montage of imaginary creatures, and it was just like, is this what your imagination came up with for your imaginary creatures? It was interesting. But
Yeah.
2.5 for me. So I've droned on my.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, cool, awesome. Thank you, Mike. I'm actually going to be even a little harsher. I'm going to give this thing a 2. I think. All right, I'm going to go with positives first. Let's do a compliment sandwich. All right, so John Krasinski and Kaylee Fleming, I think there's a lot of heartfelt moments. Exactly. So we're going to start with good, and we're going to get some bad, and we're going to finish with good
I
again.
wanted to let people know I know what a sandwich is. So
Yeah, I think yeah, Krasinski, Fleming, they had some good heartfelt moments. Um, also, or not Fleming. Wait, what's it is Fleming? What's the Irish actress woman's name again? It's
Fiona Shaw.
Shaw. Yeah. So she also is pretty good, dude. It was weird. There was not a single scene with her and Krasinski together. The entire movie. Like, was did scheduling not work? Does this
That's like, yeah, this
grand
is a very tiny human cast.
yeah, 100%. Does this grandmother not give a damn about her son, or
Was it her son or her son-in-law?
yeah, it's either or. Either way, that
We
woman
don't
does not
know.
give a damn. Yeah, that woman doesn't give a damn about him. But yeah, so I found that very weird, and but that's not even necessarily part of the movie. But Ryan Reynolds, I love Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds has been one of my favorite actors since I saw him in Waiting when I was like a kid, and Van Wilder and everything. But I don't think his Ryan Reynoldsness works for a kids movie as well. I don't. I think it's just that kind of sarcastic dryness that is so much of his persona now. I think in a
Mhm.
children's movie, it doesn't hit the same beats. There were still some great moments between him and Fleming from like an emotional perspective, but that little dry humor thing that he does, I don't. I think it missed a fair amount for me. I think the story and plot was a little all over the place and it felt random at times. And it is a kids movie, but Mike, I think you hit the nail on the head here. For me, walking out, that movie felt way too adult to be a kids movie and way too kiddish to be an adult movie. Like I think it kind of suffered from a crisis of identity a little bit of trying to do both, and I think it failed on both a little bit. There were some entertaining parts. I do applaud like what they were trying to go for, and like the message behind it of like, hey, you know, even adults need that support of that imaginary friend sometimes. I get that message. But like for instance, what the hell happens when they have that nice little moment and then the imaginary friend's like, well, all right, I'm still never gonna see him again. Doop, 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 doop. I'm like, what? You're not answering the problems that you have set up in this. And then it looked like they were going to answer the problem at the end of this movie, where I was like, oh, okay, and then I don't want to spoil anything, but it looked like it was going to be answered. But then immediately afterwards, it's like, nope, that happened, but it still wasn't the answer of this movie. So now we're still kind of left with the same thing. And you're like, huh, all right, interesting. So, and then they had an after credit scene, which kind of went back. But for me, that was just like, eh. But yeah. So from a bad perspective, bit of a lack of identity, a little all over the place. They didn't close certain loops. I wanted to know what the hell happened with Charlie, that one boy that was kind of in the middle. We see what happens to him at the end, but he just disappears, and we're like, yeah, who cares? Fuck that kid anyway.
Really?
The wasn't Charlie the little
Benjamin.
Asian boy with
Benjamin.
the glasses? Yeah. So like,
Benjamin.
oh, Benjamin. Who the hell was Charlie then?
Yeah. Oh, Charlie. It was the Actually, I don't know. I have a full list of cats.
Oh, I got you. Sure. There might have been a Charlie. I forgot. But yeah, so Benjamin. But yeah, and like he just disappears halfway through the movie, and it's kind of weird. And there's like it tries the it has the makings of a good movie, and it has like certain parts. It even has like the bear imaginary friend is a really good character who's like wise and like kind of explaining, who's kind of like the old man slash Winnie the Pooh combination, which was really cool. But I mean, yeah. Anyway, but again, I'm going to applaud some of the acting of Krasinski, Fleming, and others, and I think the message that was here was bold and imaginative. However, I think it just messed up the takeoff and landing a bit. So 2 out of 5 for me on this one. Yeah. All right. So, Mike, thank goodness you have that whole cast of characters because I could use some background now, apparently. All right. What do we got?
Right. So If was released on May 17th, 2024. The runtime is 1 hour and 44 minutes. The budget was 110 million. Jesus Christ. I think the box office projection for the opening weekend is about 40 million.
Okay.
And you can see why, because of the fact that the Rotten Tomatoes, as of right now, or when I checked yesterday, was at 52. I think originally it was like at 55 for the critics. Nothing for the audience yet. But it was like, I think that's why you see why that box office is a little bit low. But also, like I said, it cost 100 million, but I don't see where it went outside of, like you said, your actors or something like that. But even one of your actors directed the damn film. So
yeah, and Krasinski has he's not. He's not huge, but he's pretty good. So, I'm sure he could even ask favors for hey, Steve, Steve Carell.
And have the voice cast. Like he has like Matt Damon and his wife and Amy Schumer and stuff like that. So it was just like I think he did call in those favors for the most part. But it was interesting to me to see this movie at 100 million. I'd have never saw it on screen because for the most part it's 3 settings. Yeah. You're not really going anywhere, and then even the CGI budget wasn't like that. So where the hell did this money go to?
You know what it was? It might have been, and I forgot to mention this in my review. Bradley Pitt as Keith was phenomenal.
Way too formal. Is that how we're referring to that young man now?
That young man Bradley was just phenomenal as Keith, the imaginary friend. Invisible imaginary friend.
That's twice now. He was the invisible man in Deadpool. Deadpool, right?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
All right, sorry. So yeah, Rotten Tomatoes right now is at a 52 for the critics. We have nothing for the audience, but we'll see. I guess once again, it's a family movie, so they might be about a little bit more lenient.
Mm-hmm.
The genre is family drama comedy. The director is John Krasinski, who obviously did A Quiet Place. He directed a few episodes of The Office. Excuse me. The cast, you have Ryan Reynolds as Calvin, Callie Fleming as Bee, John Krasinski as Bee's dad, Fiona Shaw as Margaret, Bee's grandmother, Phoebe Waller-Bridge as Blossom, Steve Carell as Blue, which honestly, Blue was giving me Michael Scott vibes. It was one of those things where just sit down somewhere.
It was a little annoying. Yeah.
You know what it is? And I found this with, I came up with this theory watching, what is it? Horrible Bosses 2.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain there's a scale where stupidity is funny until it's all right, that's enough. You know what I'm saying? So it's just it tips into, I know they use it as a constant comedy trope, but after a while it was this is why I don't like horror. Nobody's this dumb. What are we doing?
Fair, yeah.
And I find it in comedy as well. We're just oh my god, okay, all right, you got me. This guy's stupid. You can't be that obtuse. There's no way. It's insane.
Yeah.
Sorry, a little rant. I apologize.
No, I mean, it's true. It's true.
We have Lou Gossett Jr. as Lewis. That was the teddy bear you were talking about. And then I'm not going to go through the entire list of celebrities, but you have Amy Schumer as Gummy, Emily Blunt as a unicorn, Matt Damon as Flower, Maya Rudolph as Allie. I don't know who that is. And the last one I have is Bobby Moynihan as Jeremy. He might be one of my favorite. I love Bobby Moynihan from he used to be on SNL.
Okay, I'm kind of blanking a little bit.
Yeah, Blue's kid.
No, sorry, I was saying who in other things. Oh, yes. Okay. Yep, got it.
And then the tagline is a story you have to believe to see.
Yeah.
And that is what I have.
But no one can see except for one. She's the only one who can see. She's the chosen one. Yeah. All right, cool. Awesome. Thank you, Mike. All right, before we get into our spoiler section, which is coming up, a quick word from our sponsors. Hey, what's going on? I'm one of them. I'm Edward Hunt. I'm a real estate agent on the Milan Babington team, the DMV. We are officially the #1 team in the DMV, which is phenomenal, at least with Compass. It was announced, I guess, last week. So really great things going on there. And it's so much more than just helping you buy or sell a home, or if you want advice on the market, which I absolutely can do. But I want to be a resource. If you need phenomenal contractors or handymen, if you need some phenomenal lenders that can help with HELOCs or refinancing, no matter what home item you need, I can help support you and get you there. Also, I'm Edward Hunt of Hunt Comics. I have Evil as a Weapon. Issue 1 is on Amazon Global Comics. I have my website, Edward Hunt Writing. It's one of my other, I'm not even going to call it a side project because I'd like to be devoting as much time as I can to it. But so Edward Hunt Comics, Evil as a Weapon, we have more stuff coming out as well. I'm actually going to start going to some cons. So, hey, if you're in Ashburn, Virginia, upon hearing this, actually you would have missed it. But if you're in Maryland and can go to the Marley Station Mall next Saturday, May, the 25th? I think 25th. Yeah. 8 plus 7, 25. But yeah, there you go. I'll be doing like a table as well. But yeah, cool.
Oh, what's up?
Are you ready to get started? Oh, cool. So, let's get started with this thing. So, if imaginary friends or what if?
What is it? We open up. I think I really enjoyed this little montage in the beginning, but it was just like basically, I guess, views from like a camcorder or something like that. But you see B, her mom, and her dad, and just like it's a bit of a narration about B talking about spending time with her parents and constantly telling stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see moments of them like in the house. You get like dressing up and like I think it was very like a sweet little montage because it reminded me like when I was a kid, I was definitely like a storyteller, and I think as I got older, I got a lot out of it. Like like being an adult really takes a lot out of you, but.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a kid, like my imagination was literally there was like an infinite possibilities to things. And so you see this with her, it was just like she's like a superhero, she's this, she's that, and it was just like she's a pirate captain and all these different things. And it was just a very like sweet little montage of you seeing her being with her family, but you also get glimpses of her mom in the hospital and then like kind of getting worse. A little bandana on her head. I think she definitely, her mom would eventually die from cancer, but they don't like explicitly say it, but like you just kind of see it through the little montage. And side note, not even just to be funny, but it was just like as soon as I saw her and her family having a good time, I was just like, she's not gonna like this. Man, so both of them gotta go.
Mom's dead. I was like, Mom's got to die. All right, 100%, and then we'll see if that makes it.
It's so funny. I'm watching. I'm sitting there. I was like, he's not gonna like this shit.
Why do we keep doing this? Yeah.
But yeah, so eventually you get like you just see her. I think her mom passes away. You get the title card if, and then it jumps to I guess present day. Like we don't know, but she's moving in with her grandmother. Her grandmother's kind of showing her the house. She constantly mentions the fact that B hasn't been there since she was a little bit younger, so maybe like around like 4 or 5. She's currently 12.
Mm-hmm.
But she keeps saying that she was a lot smaller the last time she was there.
That's why Grandma don't fuck with John Krasinski, all right? Because they haven't seen that woman in 8 years. They literally have not seen her in 8 years. They're just like, all right, you stay your ass in New York. Don't you come right here. All right.
I love how you're piecing things together.
It's math, man. You get the little piece here, and you're like, all right.
They Sylvia of it all. I get it. Yeah. So, sorry. So Bee's moving in with her grandmother. She's showing her the house, and like she's once again, it'll be brought up a little bit later, but like saying how she hasn't been there. She was a little girl.
Hmm.
And then you definitely see like even with I noticed this with the wardrobe that B had throughout the film. She definitely did not dress like a little girl. You know what I'm saying? It was very much grown up, very mature, and you see that through her demeanor. She doesn't like being called a kid or something
Hmm.
like that. Her grandmother shows her to her room, I guess that she had stayed in when she was a little bit younger, and she had saved all her drawings and stuff like that. And B just immediately says, "I don't do that anymore. I'm not a kid." And
Yeah.
so like you get this instantly, you get this like we know that her mother has passed, and clearly that has changed her. I mean, as it would anybody. I'm not gonna put this all on this character who's young, but it was just like it's definitely changed her where she's like very mature for
Hmm.
her age, you know. And so yeah, so her grandmother's showing her around the house, and then like she says like, "Oh, your dad, want to see you." So it jumps back to B going to the hospital, and we see that her dad is in the hospital for a surgery. And from there we get this kind of dichotomy between his personality and hers, where like he comes in, he's like put googly eyes on his like little IV bag that's stuck to him, and like he's like kind of dancing with it, and he has a very like jovial relationship with one of the nurses and stuff like that. And you see that he's kind of, even though she's trying to be grown up and all like stuff like that, like trying to take all this serious because obviously he's in the hospital. We don't at this point we don't know why, but it was just like he's in a hospital, she's trying to take it serious, and he's very much being the more juvenile in the pair.
Yeah. Which makes
Um,
sense. I mean, like, you're trying to make it so your daughter's not freaking out, but obviously, and I'm not blaming, what was Kaylee Fleming's daughter? She was,
she would be,
B. Yeah, B. Sorry, yeah, Elizabeth B. But yeah, I mean, like, your mom died, that's going to kind of force you to grow up a little bit. But
yeah,
yeah, and I will say, and then going back to, earlier, I think Krasinski in this was great. Like, the few parts he had as an actor, I thought all of
mhm,
it was like, it was fun, it was heartfelt, it was, him being there. I enjoyed his character in this immensely.
yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that in your breakdown.
Yeah.
Uh, But yeah, so we get that first interaction with them where he's definitely trying to be like not trying to take this serious, and like you said, I think it is um, to kind of quell her fears because he mentions the fact that it's like I know the last time we were here was because your mom and she died, but he was like I'm not mom. It's
Hmm.
just a simple surgery, I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Then he tells her that he doesn't want her at the hospital all the time. He wants her like exploring the city and stuff like that. So I don't know where they're from. I assume maybe a Connecticut, Delaware. Like I'm just pointing somewhere in the
Yeah.
tri-state area ish.
And they got to be close because I mean, if you think about again connecting the dots, like why go to this hospital unless they're like maybe they're like a suburb of New York, or like more
Mhm.
like rural.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe they're in New York State versus
Yeah,
the city.
exactly, New York State, and they just have never visited grandmama ever, because they're an hour away, but they're like, nah.
Because John Krasinski put his foot down. He said, "You know where we stay, bitch. What the shit is this?
Yeah, you come to us.
There's no parking near you, dummy." But yeah, so they do. You do have this moment between the dad and B where he's just like I know obviously it's bringing up a lot of past traumas being back in this hospital, but I'm not mom. That's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna leave you. It's just a simple surgery. I think it's a heart surgery or something like that. They mentioned a
Exactly.
little bit.
I will say I like how they don't really get into like the real medical stuff because it's a kids movie, but it's like,
Yeah,
hey, when he had like the broken heart shirt, he's like, it's just I got a broken heart, so it's
yeah,
something, probably some kind of open heart surgery thing he's got
yeah.
going on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. My dumbass was like, "Is he sad that his wife died?" I mean, that is a thing. That's
Really sad. Yeah.
that is a thing.
That's true.
Don't make fun of me.
You
That
die.
was definitely an episode of Doctor House or Scrubs. I know I seen it.
You get really sad. You die. You leave your two kids. One goes to like Tatooine, has to be a dirt farmer, and the other becomes a governess princess.
Now I'm connecting dots.
Yeah.
Across the universe, across the galaxy, far, far away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she visits her dad at the hospital. We get that heartfelt moment between them. This is what, like I said, even from the start, this performance from Callie, I didn't get the chance to look at what she was in prior.
Mhm.
Um, But she's just a great young actress. I really love this performance between, like you said, between her and John Krasinski. Where it's the buddy cop thing, right? Where it's just like there's always a straight laced guy and one more like a going against the rule book type of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think they played that very well. But yeah, so excuse me, where are we at? Sorry,
I think she's leaving. No, yes, I think from where she's like, he says broken heart, so then she leaves or just leaves the hospital. Now they have a good moment, and then
yeah. So she goes back to the house. At some point, I think she's watching TV with her grandmother. She hears something in her room. She goes, looks in the closet, and you see like her grandmother has packed up all those paintings she had mentioned earlier, and I think she finds a camcorder. And obviously, I think from seeing the montage in the beginning, you know that it was like filmed on some type of, either a cell phone or like some type of like video, like a camcorder or something like that. So she finds a camcorder. She leaves the house. She goes to like a bodega or something like this in New York.
Yeah.
So she goes to
quick pause, just because I'm seeing this more in movies, and I wanted to. I noticed it in this, and then Felicia and I are mainly Felicia, but I came in the second half of that movie with Anne Hathaway, the
something about her and a young boy.
Yeah, the young boy. Yeah, the young man.
The idea of you.
Yeah, which was a pretty solid movie, except for some dumb decisions they made. But I like how movies now are just like, yeah, everyone has smartphones, and we don't really know what time it is. We're just going to kind of ignore that in movies. It makes it too complicated.
At this point. That's what I'm saying with like horror movies and stuff like that. Really, like, come on now. Like it's 1986. Like.
Yeah. It's basically like they just kind of set and be like, yeah, basically this is a movie from like the early 2000s. It's like every movie gives that vibe before everyone had a smartphone in their pocket.
Because honestly, smart, like even like the I can't remember. I was listening to something about. Damn, I can't remember the movie, but it was like something. The Answer Machine, right? It was The Ugly Truth.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just with the Katherine Heigl and Gerard Butler, excuse me.
Yeah.
But like it was this thing. The idea of the Answer Machine fucked up. So like it was a plot device in a lot of films because of the fact that if you want home to hear that message,
yeah,
that it was like, and the cell phone immediately fucked that up.
Yeah. It was funny. The idea of they had an answering machine. They literally had an answering machine when she walked in the front door, and I was like, no one has answering machines anymore. What the hell is this shit?
Fuck, has a house phone. What are we doing?
But it helps, for like movie purposes. So they're just like, keep a movie on it. But yes, so it's funny when you're like, you can't really tell because it's not 2024 because not everyone has one of these burning a hole in their pocket all the damn time. So I just thought that was funny with this when she's like, I'm going to walk to the bodega and go out. I'm like, you're not going to order that from Amazon? You're not going to that's what's going on? No. All right, cool.
But yeah, so she finds a camcorder and she realizes it needs to be charged, so she leaves the house. And like before she leaves the house, she's like walking down the stairs, and we see a pair of feet at the top of the staircase or whatever. Yeah. And then like she goes to the bodega, gets the charger or whatever. As she's walking back, she sees someone, and it's Blossom.
Mm-hmm.
And Blossom is kind of confused because he was like, "You can see me," type of shit. Like she's obviously been following her. And Blossom is like an imaginary friend.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And
question, Mike, you see some weird figure, you know what I mean, with like cartoonish eyes and legs and feet following you. Do you follow it to where it comes from?
It's a hard no for me.
Oh, okay. It's a hard yes for me, so I get it.
I'm just like, okay, I need to get off that stuff.
Yeah.
I need to make some changes, goddamn it. But yeah, so B sees Blossom, and Blossom is like surprised at the fact that B can see her.
Mm-hmm.
We'll learn, why later. So like she follows her back to the apartment or whatever, and Blossom goes to B's grandmother's apartment building. And then goes up to the top floor and goes into one of the apartments in the top floor. So B goes, she knocks on the door, and she can hear from the other side of the door B talking to someone saying, she saw me. She's like, she's here. But before B can get any answers, there's a woman comes out of a door on that floor and kind of shoos her away. You're like, you're not supposed to be here, type of thing. So B goes back downstairs. The next day, I think she wakes up and she takes some flowers to her dad. at the hospital, and this is where we meet Benjamin, the young boy. He has a bunch of fucking casts or whatever because he's apparently injury prone.
Yeah. And like with this, I mean, like even how they introduced this character, it just which it was supposed to feel kind of random and jarring, but I still feel it could have been done a little bit better. Versus her just walking down the hallway. Hi there. I mean, like give it like she's looking for her dad. She goes in the wrong room. Like she went in the wrong room because they moved her dad. Something besides this random little boy
yelling in the hallway and
yelling in the hallway at her, and I'm like, hey, fellow stranger. Yeah, come here. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so they meet or whatever. You find out that Benjamin is like very injury prone. Like he fell and broke his leg, and then he has a cast on his arm. And he was like, "Oh, isolated incident."
Yeah, like okay. It was like honestly, I was like, "Is this a metaphor for abuse?" I'm like, no, Jesus Christ! Like what the hell?
And so like she goes to her dad. I think he at this point he had like left a note on his bed saying like basically go out and see the world, stop coming to visit me.
Yeah,
and so he like.
Was that the one we had like the dang ropes or whatever going out?
Yeah. He like tied bed sheets together and like had them dangling out the window as if he had escaped.
Yeah, I'm making my escape. I can't stand it here anymore. Yeah.
And then he's hiding in the closet or whatever. But like once again, you see that he's not allowing her to grow up in the weirdest way. Not weird. I apologize. That's hyperbolic. But it was just like it's oftentimes in a movie like this, you see like a parent kind of refusing to accept their child getting older. Mm-hmm. But I think in this context, it's very much he sees that she's changed since her mom has passed away. But he was like, don't lose the imagination that you get when you're a kid, or like all these different things that come with being a child. Like there's the joy of existing and not really having any responsibilities. Like don't lose that. And I think he's seen it drained from her. So he's kind of that anchor or that tether to childhood or to being immature and like these different things like that. So it was a very interesting dynamic between them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she visits him in the hospital. He basically kicks her out, like stop coming here, like go like enjoy the city. And so I think that night she hears Blossom in the hallway of the apartment. And Blossom goes to get Calvin, and they leave because like something is happening in the neighborhood. So B hears this, she follows him down the street, and this is where we kind of meet Calvin, and they're going to I guess retrieve Blue, another imaginary friend, because he's like he made an attempt to I guess meet another kid or whatever, like to be their imaginary friend, and it didn't work or whatever. So Calvin sneaks into the kid's bedroom, which it's 2024 at this point. We're just like there's certain things that aren't as cute in a Hollywood like a movie setting. We're just like you just snuck into a child's bedroom. So like what are we doing? Yeah, you could have summoned.
Literally just like the stakes. I'm like, okay, if he's caught, he is now a sex offender. He is now so many things.
Getting caught was so much higher than like Steam for a kid. It was like the legal issues.
Well, it's because we've lost our imagination. Like, all right, we've gotten old. All right, we forgot.
That's what I mean. Like an idiot, I grew up. Sorry. Yeah, so he's sneaking into this kid's bedroom to retrieve Blue, another imaginary friend, because Blue is trying to make a connection with this kid. But apparently, the only thing that happened was the kid cried for an hour. I think Blue was trying to do things, but it was just like if you can't, if it's you don't have a connection with that imaginary friend, you can't see them. So I think Blue was just making scary shit happen in the room. The kid can't see the imaginary friend. She could just see some spooky shit happening.
Like stuff's floating, toys start going off on her.
But she just, instead of being connected with Blue, she just cried for an hour. Yeah. But you see, Blue definitely has this, and this is what I was leaning towards. I guess I enjoy Steve Carell, and like at best, what was it? Sort of his performance as Michael Scott. I think I really enjoyed him as Brett from Anchorman. Mm-hmm. But it was just like I said, I think stupidity or obtuseness in comedy, whatever, even fucking horror, drama, whatever it is, it has a limit. Mm-hmm. Right? It was like to a point where just like you cannot be that like, how you not? What is the situational awareness to a lot of things? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And that's what this character Blue had the entire film. What it was like, oh, are you fucking? I'm a kid. I'm not a kid. I'm not a kid, and I
Yeah.
don't have a kid, so maybe I don't have that leniency towards like these characters. Um, but you see, anyway, Blue's like been hanging out with this kid all day. The kid can't see him, but he's trying to get matched to the kid as a new imaginary friend. Uh, Calvin goes in, is able to retrieve Blue, and as he's getting Blue out of the window, he sees B watching him,
Hmm.
and then B sees both Calvin and Blue, and then she turns around and sees Blossom and passes out.
Yeah.
And then she wakes up in Calvin's apartment on the top floor of that the apartment building that her grandmother lives in, and we kind of get a brief introduction of them, like where like Blue and Blossom are trying to explain to her what they do. So basically, Calvin's job is to reassign imaginary friends once the kids grow a little bit older and forget about the imaginary friend.
Hmm.
And like you said earlier, like Blue calls her the chosen one because he's able to see them. That's how she's able to see them, which is rare. And then it was interesting at this point, and obviously it'll come in. It's I guess a bit of foreshadowing, but it was just like you do see, just like B's grandmother, Calvin starts mentioning. It was like the fact like he knows what's her name B or whatever, and it was like he even says like you were a lot smaller last time or something. Jesus Christ, I'm so sorry.
Where is he? I'm like, oh, you okay?
He mentions that she was a lot smaller the last time he saw her or something like that. So clearly they've had a past or a history, but they don't really delve into it.
Yeah.
Right, honestly, for the most part, at all. For the
He's
rest of
the
the movie,
kindly old man who lives above the grandma. I mean, that's classic character. Yeah.
and then he also mentions that like B can't be there because of the fact that the witch will come out mentioning the lady from the night before
Hmm.
or whatever. So like uh, B says she doesn't want to help. She leaves. The next day, she goes to the hospital. And when she's at the hospital, she leaves a little flower for Benjamin.
Hmm.
He's not in the room. And then we see that Blue has followed her or whatever.
Yeah.
And once again, this character. I guess it's sweet if his kid was a kindergarten. What's interesting, see who the fuck his kid was.
Yeah.
I don't know when he was created.
Years
Right?
ago, I'm assuming. At this point.
Like at what age he was created. Family created Blue.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
Blue had the understanding of like a kindergartner, but like fucking Jeremy, when you see it a little bit later, he looked like he was 12 or 13, some shit like that.
when he made him.
When he made him, yeah. So it's like there's no way that Blue is this obtuse or this young. Like it was interesting to me, right?
Yeah, well, because especially
like,
too.
Blue is very frustrating to me. This film.
Yeah.
This imaginary friend. So like you do have your understanding, your maturity is capped by whoever created you. Maybe.
Yeah.
Some leniency to
Sure. But yeah, I mean, that makes sense because, like, but then you look at the rule, and the rule is like, when they grow up, they forget their kids. So, they forget their imaginary friends. And, like, you think, like, most of them people are making their imaginary friends, when they're, like, sub 10. You know what I mean? And more like,
so, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. But I agree because, like, you're like, when did it? Because then you have later with, grandma and stuff too, and you're like, you were like 14, that's all.
Look at Lewis, the teddy bear.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like he literally got older. Now, was he born older?
Yeah, I tell you, what 4-year-old was like, you know what I need? I need a kindly old grandpapa teddy bear to guide me through life's tribulations and trials. It was the Great Depression, so it was a different time. But still, like.
But yeah, so Blue follows her to the hospital. Like they have a moment where like she's talking to Blue, but nobody else can see him. And I think this is always bothers me when it happens. Either it's imaginary friend or it's like a something in that person's head, and they're talking out loud to it, and like and nobody else sees this person you're talking to. It's like a Fight Club or Mr. Robot, like that shit like that. Where it's just like, yeah, what I'm not about to do is talk out loud. Especially in the hospital, what you doing? Yeah. So Blue follows her. We see that, and then like she takes him back to the house and says she wants to help with placing these imaginary friends. So what's his name? Calvin initially like is against it, but then he takes her to the retirement home for I think it's called Memory Lane Retirement Home or whatever, and it's for imaginary friends whose kids have forgotten them. It's like at Coney Island, underneath like a like one of the fair rides or something like that. So she goes in. And this is where we get like the bulk of meeting some of the imaginary friends that live in this home, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and he's looking for Lewis, who is like kind of the person who created this home for imaginary friends. It's talking about foster.
Yeah.
Um, and he kind of like Lewis kind of gives her a I guess it's like a job interview or whatever it was, and he tells her that anything that she can imagine in this place exists. So like she kind of uses her imagination to spruce up the retirement homes. Like so she gives um, different imaginary friends. So like Blue, you see that he's staying there, and like Jeremy, his family like owned a bakery or whatever. So she changes his room into a bakery, and
Hmm.
like she just does different things very specific to the imaginary friends that live there. Like there's a carpet in the hallway. She changes it to like tiles to be like more festive, bring more light into it. And like we get I guess as a cute scene where like what's his name? Calvin is kind of trying to avoid all these changes as they're happening. So it's like he's falling over stuff and like into different rooms and stuff like that. But you see like the power of her imagination is really changing this place. And it was like so she ends up getting a job. I think it's important this whole scene is just like you just see some of the different imaginary creatures.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like there's unicorns. There's one of the funny characters. It was the PI guy or whatever. Like,
Cosmo or Cosmic or whatever.
yes. Like I said, it was like what was interesting to me was like this movie about imaginary friends really didn't lead into having a lot of imagination to it.
Hmm.
It was like I guess it did have a bit, right? It did like you do see like the different like there's a giant cat and
Yeah.
like a mannequin, like from like an art
Yeah.
class or something
Creepy
like
wooden puppet thing, which
yeah,
whatever
like a
child made
gangster or
that.
whatever. But it was just
Yeah.
like for the most part, it was like it wasn't as imaginative as I would have thought
Hmm.
this movie would have put out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she changes using her imagination. She changes the retirement home. She gets the job, and now she's partnered up with Calvin. And then so the next day she starts well she goes to visit her dad to bring him flowers.
Hmm.
And then she asks Benjamin
Well,
because
and I
he
think on this too, there's like a montage where like we see that there's now a lot of flowers left in Benjamin's room.
yeah.
It
So like
shows-
every time yes, because every day she goes to see her dad, which is like how the fuck long was he in this goddamn
yeah, he's in
hospital?
there forever without even getting surgery. Like there's like 8 flowers in that thing. Like he's just chilling in there.
Yeah. But yeah, so
Yeah.
like she goes to visit her dad this day. And every time she visits her dad, she brings him a bouquet of flowers,
Hmm.
and she'll leave one flower in Benjamin's room. And so like she just brings her dad flowers, throws away the ones from the day before. He's reading the book, but
Hmm.
she doesn't stay. She literally like just visits, and I think he's excited to see the fact that like she has some type of. She tells him that she got a job or whatever,
Yeah.
but he's just excited that she's not spending her days in the hospital with him.
Hmm. But
And
also, like,
actually,
he's her father, and like my daughter's just doing these random things, and I have no idea.
also, yeah, that was even when in the beginning of the movie, like she goes out at night to
Yeah.
go to bodega down the street to get a charge. I'm just like, you
Uh,
are
yeah, no, 100%,
I live in New York, and I was also a latchkey kid, so I was out these streets too. And some city, so I get it. But it was like, I guess looking back now, it seems like I shouldn't have been out there. Like I shouldn't have been out.
Yeah.
There was nothing to it. But I'm looking at it, like, oh no, that sweet baby child.
Yeah.
Where's your adult? But yeah, so she visited her dad. She tells him she got a job, and before she leaves the hospital, that she asked Benjamin if he wants if he has an imaginary friend, and is like, does he want one? And he was like, sure. This was like the hospital room he stays in the TV doesn't work, so he's like constantly like I guess using his imagination or reading books or whatever it is to keep himself entertained. And then we get just a montage of her interviewing all of the imaginary friends at the home, trying to find the perfect fit for Benjamin. Like, and this is going to be her job. And you just see her making sketches in her notebook of the imaginary friend and like just their name, the name of the kid that they were imaginary friend for, and then like certain traits about them. And I thought this was cool. Like some of the imaginary friends were cool. Like I think
Mhm.
there was like a superhero one. I really like Cosmo. I think just because he was so fucking intense. Like,
That's what did it for you, the intensity. Yeah.
yeah, and like Keith, the unicorn, like you just meet a bunch of different imaginary friends, get their backstory, which is interesting because it seems like Calvin has been doing his job for X amount of years. You see, he's very much. I think what was a little bit frustrating with this movie since they didn't do a lot of world building or like character depth. It was just like, why is he the grizzled
Yeah.
detective? Like in this,
He's been in this for years.
this shit, and it was very much Lethal Weapon. It was just like I'm too old for this shit, but it was
For this
you
shit.
don't know you, so you need
Yeah.
to tell.
Yeah. But it's always one of those too, where it's like, so you're telling me you've been doing this for X amount of years and we're awful at it, and the little girl comes in, she's like, no, immediate fixer upper. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. One of their interactions when he's trying to deny her, but not deny her, but like avoid her helping.
Mhm.
And she admits she was like, I'm a kid because I think that draws him in because of the fact that so often, every time somebody mentions that B is a kid, she kind of scoffs at it. Versus like, I'm not a kid. I'm even though I'm 12, and I can't pay taxes or pay bills. I'm not a kid. As you can see, I have a certain hatred towards precocious children.
I mean, like, you said it, not me.
I stand on my truth. I'm fine with it. Yeah, so she interviews a bunch of the imaginary friends, and then she takes a few of them with her to the hospital to kind of see if they're a match for Benjamin. And so, like, she'll bring one in, they'll step in the doorway, and she'll just ask if she can see them, and if she can see if Benjamin can see the imaginary friend, and like she runs through a bunch of them, and he can't see any of them. But what was interesting to me with this, once again, I'm trying to be nice, I'm leaning into the lore of the story, and I'm thinking, as a kid who created an imaginary friend, it's very specific to you.
Yeah.
So there's no way to kind of match with somebody else, right? Once again, this is like I said, I'm leaning into the lore that is this film.
Yeah.
Like it's a 1-to-1 relationship. There's no way that, I mean, it could be maybe, but like, there's no way you can match with anybody else because I made you for my specific needs, whether I was lonely or like neglected or whatever it is, or like my imagination created you because of a certain necessity or like what I was into at the time or something like that. So it's just like there's no way for you to match to somebody else.
Yeah.
In my mind, but so she makes a bunch of attempts to match Benjamin with a bunch of the imaginary friends. None of them work. She goes back to the retirement home and has a conversation with Lewis, the grizzled teddy bear, who is definitely retired.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
There's always a cop that is either a few days from retirement.
Well, if he's a few days from retirement, he's actually not going to retire by the end of the movie.
He's not going to. That we know.
Yeah, 100%.
There's two things. It's like you're a cop close to retirement, or you're a parent in the beginning of in a child film. You need to get the fuck out of here.
No.
But yeah, so she has a conversation with Lewis about like the fact that her failed attempt, and he mentions they're sitting on the boardwalk in Coney Island, and he's just saying like I mean, all kids forget, but it was just like all it takes is like you taking a deep breath and just kind of remembering that person. And so like closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, and like they're kind of transported back to I guess when Lewis was first created. And like so they take a walk on the boardwalk and like kind of this flashback. So it's not necessarily a flashback, but it was just like you just see all of the imaginary friends at a former time or whatever, and it was like they're just having a good time at the carnival. And so, excuse me, I think that's what she gets the idea. We're just like instead of trying to match these imaginary friends with new kids, let's see if we can get them back with get their original kids to remember them. And like so, she's having dinner with her grandmother that night, and she just asked her grandmother like, "What did you want to be when you grew up?" And like throughout the movie, and I think it's one of those things like trying to do better with like reviewing films and like really paying attention to the different things in the scene. when B got to her grandmother's house, you saw like an Alvin Ailey poster or something like that. You saw different Broadway things, so you can definitely tell, one, that this is New York, but two, that her grandmother has always been into dancing, and it was like you could just see that through the set. I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, so she asked her grandmother, what does she want to be when she grew up? And her grandmother talks about like she used to do ballet as a kid, and she just really loved it. She brings up this story about this big I guess big performance she had at some theater, and like she was really nervous. But when the music came in, like it just like something took over her, and like she was just able to really perform. And she talks about the fact that I think after that day or whatever, like she got too tall to be a ballerina, and then like she got old, and she kind of walks off. And B's looking at a photo of that day. She and there's a picture of her grandmother, that day in the studio, and then she also sees in the background an image of Blossom, and like so she goes upstairs to talk to Blossom, and you find out that Blossom was her grandmother's imaginary friend. And like so kind of that's why she's always been around. She's always been in the house. Blossom mentions that she always has tea with her. She watches TV with her. She, does Pilates, the different things. Like even though the grandmother can't see her, Blossom is always around her. And so B gets an idea. She plays the song from that day, from the picture, from that big performance. She plays it on the what is it? The recorder? Not recorder. It is record player.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the thing that's in your house. It's literally right behind you.
That's off of it. I know you hear me. But, so she plays a record on the record player with the song that her grandmother had danced to that day. And then she just she brings Blossom in, they hide behind the couch. And her grandmother hears the music, and initially she's going to turn it off, but then she just starts dancing. She does the performance from that day. And as her grandmother, with her back to them, as she's doing the dance, Blossom also does the dance, and we see this kind of glow. And it's kind of to signify that as her grandmother redoes this dance from like years ago, she starts remembering Blossom. Or whatever, and then Calvin
feelings at least, that were behind it.
Calvin sees this and he's kind of amazed, and then like so the next so they found a way to get at least to remember, maybe not see the imaginary friends, but at least just to remember their imaginary.
And so this goes into what I was talking about in my review. So now what the fuck happens with them? So then they just, okay, you remembered me once, but now I'm just going to like go back and do nothing for the rest of my life. I don't disappear. Like, am I supposed to go in their heart now to like comfort them at times? I don't know, but like,
it's the same thing that happened with in the later Toy Story movies, especially Toy Story 4. Like Woody's going through this midlife crisis. It's like, you are a toy. I don't give a fuck. You are playing. Like you said this shit in the first Toy Story. Do your job and sat down. Emotions. Sorry, once again, I'm an older adult.
Just no pity for the toys. Got it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So with the success of getting her grandmother to remember Blossom, now they're trying with Blue. So we get another interaction with Cosmo the Private Eye. Like he's done some research, done some digging, and found Jeremy, the Blue's creator or whatever. And so they go into the city. They see that Jeremy's like older man now, and he's like very like kind of fidgety, and he has a presentation that he's giving. So he, I think he goes into an office building, goes into a bathroom. So what's her name? B sneaks in and gets Blue to walk in to try to interact with Jeremy, and like Blue kind of I guess sneezes or something like that before he's able to touch him. And Jeremy like kind of fidgets, breaks the sink, and just leaves or whatever. And like Blue feels like a failure, and then like B goes back. So he's sitting in this office like waiting to present. I think in Wikipedia says like he's trying to he's like an entrepreneur trying to sell it like basically pitching his idea to like the sharks or whatever, something like that. And so B kind of once again remembering from the interviews and kind of like specific things about the different kids and imaginary friends. She remembers that Blue had mentioned that Jeremy's family owned a bakery. So she goes to a bakery, gets a few croissants, And like, so her and Calvin sit in the waiting room with Jeremy as he's waiting to present his business idea. And she just opens the box of croissants, and you see, and Blue sits next to him on the couch, even though he still can't see him.
Yeah, yeah.
And she opens the box of croissants, and you see kind of Jeremy look up because he smells it, and he doesn't react. And then like she takes a bite, and he looks again, and as he's about to go, like the secretary calls him to go into the meeting room, and as he's about to go in, I think you just see him smelling the croissants and kind of remembering back to his childhood. And then Blue puts his hand on Jeremy's shoulder, and you start to see him glow in the same way that Blossom did. And then in the mirror, you see Blue's hand on Jeremy's shoulder, but now he's like his younger version.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause he's basically remembering back to his childhood. And what's his name? Blue just says, "You can do this," or "You got this," kind of giving him a confidence. And Jeremy goes into the room very confident, like to pitch his idea or whatever. And then they walk away, and like Blue, as they're at the elevator or whatever, Blue gives what's her name, Bia, just a giant hug, because it was like, I think I guess Blue is like the main if they lean into, but it was just like he was going through like some type of existential crisis because of the fact that it was like, if my kid doesn't remember me, what is my purpose?
Yeah.
It was like, do I just go off into the do I turn into dust? Like, what happens with me? That's why he was so eager to get placed with another kid. But I think he's just elated to kind of have a purpose again. So he gives her a hug.
Yeah.
Calvin sees this, and also like the secretary sees her being hugged by, and like I said, this was always kind of my thing with, either, like I said, it's either an imaginary friend or like a associative, dissociative disorder type of thing, where like, it's like they're talking to themselves in their head, but like they're doing it out loud. And it's like, no, keep that all in the mind.
Yeah, because it made for a funny sight gag, because it's like, oh, this is like funny, but at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, but now it's like, what is kind of like messing with the reels? Though I will say, this also confirmed for me something that I had a growing suspicion of throughout the entire movie. That we'll review.
Well, yeah, I got it with this next scene.
Yeah.
So like, what's her name? Bee returns home after the success with Jeremy and Blue. And her grandmother's like, "Where have you been?" Like, there's been a complication or something happened with her dad's surgery.
Yeah. And
so like, she was like, "Get your stuff, we're going now." And so like, what's her name? Bee immediately leaves the apartment and she goes up to Calvin's apartment. And she's like scared, and she was like, "I don't want to go through this again. I don't want to have to say goodbye." And he's like, "Well, don't." Yeah. And he just like, just tell him a story. So she gives him a big hug. And this is where I got the okay. I see where this is going.
Yeah. For me, there had been like little hints besides the fact that it's a movie. And then like, you see kind of even like with the way that Calvin has been dressed this entire time, because there's like, I did not get it this time at this early in the movie. But when she opens the book that her dad's reading, and you see the little, the bookmark that she gave her mom of like a clown, of that. And then they mentioned Calvin used to be a clown, and then that explains it. And they're like, okay, that's why because Calvin does have a very unique style. You know what I mean? Like his shoes and his suspenders and all that. So part of me was like, okay, so when I saw that, I was like, okay, no, I think I get it. But then for the secretary scene, when she saw through him to see her kind of floating there, I was like, because okay, that's what it is.
I didn't get it right. Yeah, I took that as movie stuff where it was just like she was just seeing past him type of thing. But I got it in this scene where like B goes up to kind of get pep talk before she goes to see her dad.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, like, Calvin just tells her, don't say goodbye. Just tell him a story. Because I think that was in the opening montage or the opening narration, where like, once again, being a kid, being so imaginative and stuff like that, was just like she would just constantly tell stories like off the top of her head and stuff like that. But when her mom passed, the stories went away, and like her dad mentions like her like asking about her telling him a story, but she kind of refuses to because I think she sees that as childish. Yeah. And so after the moment with Calvin, she goes to the hospital. We see a bunch of the imaginary friends kind of in the hallway, kind of rooting her on. She goes into the room. Her dad is asleep after surgery, And so she just goes to the side of bed and she starts telling him a story.
Well, so that's the thing. He looks asleep, but everyone's saying this whole time, "Oh my god!" So I'm like, "So is he in a coma? Like, did they not just explain this man's in a coma right now? Like,
it very much like, can this man not take a nap? Because even the nurse wasn't.
Yeah.
Even the nurse wasn't like shocked at his. She was like, "No, he needs to sleep." So it's like, what are we doing?
It's been a long day, but like grandma's freaking out. But again, just to point it through. So now there's 2 times where grandma's like, "Oh, I'll drop you off. I'll be in there later. Don't worry about it." Or then there it's like, "Oh no, I'm just gonna stop and stand in the hallway while she goes in." I'm like, man, this is either your son or son-in-law who takes care of your only granddaughter. All right, you get your ass in there and support this man too. All right, like.
But yeah, so B goes into the room. Her dad is like asleep or in a coma. We don't know, but I assumed asleep. But basically, the way that the hospital staff is reacting, well, I mean, maybe that's just an everyday thing for them anyway, too. But yeah, so she goes in and she tells him a story. She basically says a story about a little girl who kind of put away childish things when her mother died, just because of the fact that she didn't want to feel vulnerable ever again. She didn't want to have to say goodbye to someone.
Yeah.
But she had someone in her life that refused to let her grow up, that always kept the joy in life and like being jovial and jokey and immature and stuff like that. And she needs that. She can't live without, her dad because of the fact that he kept the joy in her life or whatever.
Yeah.
And once again, like I said, I can't say enough about this performance from Callie, this young actress. Like she was amazing. And after hearing the story or whatever, her dad wakes up and says like that was a really good story. And so they hug or whatever, and then like once she sees he's okay, she goes out and tells her grandmother that he's awake now.
Yeah.
And hug her. Honestly, you're right. I don't think that grandmother goes into the room.
Right, yeah, she didn't ever in the room. Well, she said that too. So that's the thing. It's actually a couple things. One, first and foremost, too, when she went and was going and all the imaginary friends were lined up along the hallway, for me, this was a perfect setup for how I think this movie should have went. So I wanted to touch that, upon that now. Because it was a powerful scene, all the imaginary friends she was friends with. 2, they don't explain. They're like, "Oh, he's just resting," but like, does it sound like he's gonna die? Does it not? Because when she says to the nurses, "Oh, he's awake," you have 2 or 3 nurses rush in that bitch. So I'm like,
yeah,
did they also think he was gonna die? They didn't explain it. 3, ma'am, your father just had open heart surgery and you just shouldered the fuck out of his sternum when she jumped on top of him. He just died from that. All right, literally the sutures broke and like.
Oh, you're a doctor now, sir?
I'm just saying. No, but I play one on a podcast. But yeah. But yeah, so those just my 3 from there. But yes.
So her dad's awake. She goes out, tells her grandmother, and apparently tells some of the nurses who weren't, paying attention. When she's in the hallway, she sees that she can't see any of the imaginary friends anymore. Because I think they mentioned earlier the fact that like imaginary friends are there for you kind of when you need them type of thing. So she goes back up. She goes back to the house. She goes see Calvin. She knocks on the door or whatever. And nobody answers. And then once again, the lady who is the landlady, she comes out that lives on that top floor. And she's like, "Are you looking for somebody?" And she was like, B says, "Yeah, I'm looking for my friend who lives here." And the landlady is kind of confused. She was like, she opens the door and you just see it's a storage unit or whatever. And then I think this is where we get more of the, Calvin wasn't real type of thing.
Yeah.
And then so like a few days later, once her dad is recovered, he packs up her room or whatever, and they're heading back home. And so she brings the last few things to the car. She drops a box or whatever. And as she's picking up the different things, the different content from the box, she sees a picture that she drew when she was a kid, and it's her mom, and her dad, and it's like folded over. And she extends the folded part, and she sees that there's Calvin or whatever.
Which was,
and this is where
why the hell was it folded over? Was this some like serial killer shit? That's the same thing that happens in horror movies where it's like, I have a twin brother. I have an evil twin brother.
It was malignant. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So now she starts remembering the fact that, because, like you said, I think when they first met that first night, Blossom mentions the fact that Calvin was a clown or whatever, and like he would make balloon animals and all this stuff like that. And I was just said from his wardrobe. Now, I never got it from his wardrobe because I guess it seemed fairly regular to me. It wasn't as expressive as I've seen clowns dress, I guess. And also
Well, because like
he was never wearing the hat.
yeah, well, there was the thing. So it was never like a. It was odd enough that I was like, huh, you're strange. You're kind of because like you look at his shoes, you look at the suspenders, you looked at all that. It's either this man is always impeccably dressed to the nines, or but like old school, like old timey dressed to the nines a little bit with the vests and the suspenders, or there's something kind of behind this a little bit. So once she said clown. Because it to me that looked like an old timey clown a little bit. So I was like, okay, cool, clown. Wait, why the hell is this guy a clown? Oh, okay. I'm not 100% sure because I wasn't sure if it was going to be like since he was a clown for children, he was
That's
just
why he can
his imagination.
Well, I think that's what I said towards my review. It was just like I think they didn't do enough world building, right?
Yeah,
because maybe because they were leading to this, they really couldn't with him. But it was just like, why can he also see? Because I think the trailers did a little bit different. There with their meeting was just like I think he was more excited to find her as someone else who could also see imaginary friends. Yeah, right? So it was just like to me, I was trying to get this. Well, why can he also see it? Type of thing. It was just like I don't think they did enough world building because of this Shyamalanian twist.
Yeah,
you couldn't really dig into it that much. But yeah, so she drops a box. She's putting stuff back in the box, and she sees this picture that she painted of her family and Calvin. She remembers the fact that Calvin was her imaginary friend. So she goes back up to the storage room, and she uses Lewis's technique of just like closing her eyes, trying to remember. When she opens it, she sees Calvin and all the other imaginary friends. Because first she goes and says. The fact that it was like when she realizes she's like I know you think that kids like forget you because they don't need you, but it was just like I will always need you type of thing. And then she closes her eyes, remembers, opens them, and she sees the imaginary friends. He gives her like a balloon animal. I guess that's something he used to do when she was a kid. And they hug, and it was just sweet. Like I said, I think this movie definitely. I think I really enjoyed the scene between Jeremy and Blue. Even though I'm not a huge fan of Blue, but the heartfelt moments really did hit. I did appreciate that. Even though it was tonally kind of all over the place, but I did appreciate this moment too with B and Calvin, kind of reuniting as imaginary friend and child.
Yeah. Because I think this was a really heartfelt moment. I completely agree. Like this was when you see like Ryan Reynolds, like it's just because Ryan Reynolds is a good actor. It's just so much I think is like that sarcastic Deadpool-esque, and he's been doing it for years, even before Deadpool. Yeah. But like seeing him have a more emotional, heartfelt moment was nice. I was like, I would love to see Ryan Reynolds do more stuff like that, and just kind of like.
I think it's definitely Maybe or something like that. This is like from a decade or two ago. With he had a young daughter and like kind of telling it was very much like the How I Met Your Mother type of thing movie or whatever. He was telling his daughter about like who her mother could possibly be, and it was I think the same thing. Where just like this, I think this is what I said is like Ryan Reynolds has been playing Ryan Reynolds for like 2 decades now. So just like there's no versatility to his. Once again, he's a great actor. I'm not going to take that away from him. There's no real versatility outside. I really liked him in Smoking Aces. I think that was him being more serious. I think it's called Definitely Maybe. That movie where it was just like it's another one where he's playing a dad and having this younger scene partner and like him really playing the dad role really well. Cool. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, so B remembers him. They hug or whatever. She leaves. There's go with her dad. Yeah. And then as the car is driving away, the grandmother's watching, and she's talking to someone. She was like, "So you want to go in and have some tea?" And you see that now the grandmother can also see Blossom again. Yep. After their moment dancing, and then it's just a montage of Calvin reintroducing imaginary friends with some of the characters some of the adult characters that we've met throughout the film, just to kind of reunite it. Excuse me, Jesus Christ. So like I think the secretary gets reunited with the unicorn. Yeah. The nurse gets reunited with the alligator, and like just different. He's just reuniting different characters from the film with their imaginary friends. And then those are sweet moments too. Because but I couldn't really tell because like you said, it was like you can see me now. Now what? Yeah. Or did we just have
Yeah.
a world full of? I mean, it's New York. Was it a world full of unstable people?
Yeah, right. They're all just talking to themselves. No, what it should have been, in my opinion. Oh, well, so with that, then you get Charlie gets not Charlie, Benjamin gets reunited with the dragon, who also has a broken foot or a wing or something.
So then you get reunite. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure because I didn't remember the dragon, so I wasn't sure it was a new imaginary friend for him.
Yeah, I don't know, honestly.
Yeah,
It could have been.
okay.
Actually, no, you're right. That could have been. We saw him invent that imaginary friend right then and there.
Because it was very specific to him. It was like you saw the dragon had a broken leg and a broken paws.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if it was like it was a reunited thing or he had created one.
Yeah, I know. I think it's heartfelt. We just saw that little boy create an imaginary friend before he abandons him years later because he forgets. It's so heartfelt.
That's a thesis me problem, baby. It was like this is what I was saying earlier with him trying to match imaginary friend. Benjamin literally created that imaginary friend for his specific moment, for his specific moment.
I think so. Yeah.
So how can you match with somebody else? You know what I'm saying? Like, but anyway, yeah.
Sure. Well, that's the thing. And then Keith, the invisible imaginary friend, Krasinski, when he gets home, he trips and ruptures the sutures in his heart, so he bleeds out on the floor, unfortunately. But
okay, please. Okay, I don't understand. Did you get your degree online over the weekend? You keep bringing up some procedures.
So then it was funny.
You said one online course about surgery. You're like, that is not how being a doctor works. Okay,
I watched
really intensive.
Really intensive. A lot of movies to watch. So he trips over Bradley Pitt again, who is cameoing as Keith Invisible. Yeah. But so that's the end of the movie. But I'm going to touch on this now, dude. It would have been so much better because all of this, I'm like, what the hell? Like, just have it where B had a super active imagination from the get-go. She made all these imaginary friends when she was living there. So this was about her reconnecting with her childhood. Calvin was the ringleader, or like the leader of all of these, because when she walks out with that like gorgeous book with like, the book, she has all these like great colorings and drawings of all of these, things. Like, I think that would have made so much better. Or because now what happened, as you said, Mike, is you have an unstable grandma who's now going to be talking to herself in New York City. You have it's just, it would have been so much to me. And, people can disagree, but it would have been so much better. And this is why when she walked down the hospital and saw all the imaginary friends lining the hallway to like support her, that's because she invented all of them, and it was all in her head the whole time, because this was about her reconnecting with her childhood when the last time she was there, where she was super imaginative, playing all these games. When she was a superhero, she had her superhero pup friend. When she was blah, 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 blah. That was
I think another thing interesting about this movie is like there was no actual antagonist.
No. Yeah, it was
like I think, and once again, there are different ways to tell stories. I'm not going to tell an artist or a writer how to tell a story, but it was like usually an antagonist pushes that plot, pushes the story forward, pushes the narrative. So it was like without having one, it was. I don't know if this is the first time I think maybe in the most recent time I can think of, it was a movie without an antagonist. So it's like, where do you go from it? Maybe that's why the story was kind of bland and all over the place, because of the fact that there was nobody pushing this narrative forward.
Well,
there's no
I think you look at you get like the whole man versus man. Let's talk 6th grade, 7th grade English here. Man versus man versus nature, man versus society. Like that whole thing. So I guess the antagonist partially was like her dealing with the grief and potential of her dad. Going to be passed.
I guess true. What is it? God damn it! There was another movie that did this. Oh god damn, I can't remember the name of the film, but it was like basically his mom was dying from cancer, so like this creature came to visit him every night to tell him a story. Yeah, and it was like the whole thing was helping the kid deal with the grief of losing his mom.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so it was just like he kept he would destroy the house, and it was the monster that when a monster calls, I think, or something like that.
Interesting. Okay,
but it was just like the same thing. It was just like helping this kid deal with his grief. But the monster was more antagonistic, but it was also helping him deal with his grief. But like I said, it was like that was like I said, I can't think of another movie where it's like it was interesting that you brought up the I guess the different tropes of storytelling when it comes to, because I didn't even think about that. But it was like there was no antagonist pushing this movie forward. I guess it was her just leaning into being a kid. But
I think it was about
you know what I'm saying. That's interesting. Whatever. But so. like you said, I think there are ways this movie could have done different things with, and I think I do like that take where it's just like, yeah, like she comes home and just gets reunited with all the creatures that she created, type of thing.
I think that would have been a much better, personally, way of wrapping it, because then it would have wrapped everything up in a prettier bow. But also, hindsight's 2020. It's so much easier to see something and be like, you know what would improve upon this, versus when you're making it, you're in the middle of it, and it's very hard to see all of that. So still. Like, I digress. As someone who writes, I totally get it. People can look at my stuff and be like, you should do this instead. And I'll be like, what do you mean? I think that's dumb. No, they were right. But but that is the end of the movie. So that is If. Thank you for listening, everybody. We are the Two Meddling Kids. We always like to go back to our original reviews at the end. So, Mike, you gave this a 2.5 out of 5. Are you keeping it? What are you thinking?
I'm keeping it. Like I said, I think the things that my gripes are the fact that I think they didn't lean into the world that they kind of introduced you to.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the performances really kept this movie at where I see it at, like a very heartfelt. Like I said, that moment, especially that moment with Jeremy. But I think I'm a little biased because I love Bobby Moynihan. I've loved him since SNL. I really try to support anything he's in.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that moment was important. I think they could have leaned into this idea. It was like, you're never too old to need someone like because it's leaning into the reason why people make imaginary friends, right? And it was just like, I think they could have delved kind of into that more, talking about some rewrites and like stuff like that. I think they could have really leaned into the idea of why kids create imaginary friends.
Yeah.
And then kind of their true purpose in life. But yeah, for the most part, like I said, I liked it. It wasn't horrible. I wasn't really excited to see this one. I didn't walk away totally like I wasted my time. Now, was the movie a little long? Sure, the fuck was.
Yeah,
could have caught about 15 minutes, but I'm gonna stick with a 2.5.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with a 2 for me as well. Again, a 2 is not necessarily like an awful movie, it is where a 2 is probably where I start calling it kind of bad. But that's because like there were some good heartfelt moments. There are some gems you can take from this for sure. But I think just it was a little too convoluted for me. I think the messaging was a little odd. Stuff could have been, wrapped in a bow. And I also recognize part of the reason why I might be giving it a 2 is because I think my ending's better. And, that's on me. Like, I think it's just, yeah. But again, I'm going to applaud Krasinski. I'm going to applaud Kaylee Fleming especially. And also, I think this was because Krasinski directed this, and this was he did A Quiet Place, so this is his first like younger movie or whatever that he's directing. To.
Yeah, most of his, he's directed like 3 movies, 3 or 4 movies, and then a few episodes of The Office.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is him. But also, I think it's interesting. You see so many actors, and this is not just them, Ryan Reynolds and Krasinski, but it was like when they have kids, they kind of lean towards projects more. Focus on like the family and stuff like that,
which makes sense, 100%.
Yeah,
I'm just waiting for some point in time in the future. I'll probably try and write a kid's book, because get for that too. But so sticking with the 2, there's still much to like about this movie, but not necessarily for me. Again, thank you so much for listening, everybody. We are the Two Meddling Kids. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us at Two Meddling Kids on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email us at twomeddlingkids@gmail.com. Mike, how can I reach out to you?
On Instagram at Days from Legendary.
Nice. And if you'd like to reach out to me, I am at EdHunt77 on Twitter and Instagram, and Hunt.comics on Instagram and TikTok for all things specifically comic related. But we'll be back next week with a brand new movie. Catch everyone.
Bye.